Since the dawn of motion pictures, the general rule for African Americans has been it's either feast or famine, meaning you're either working steady because you're a star, or you're not a star and you don't work at all. This has always been a sore point, but I'm proud to say that a few African Americans have managed to defy the odds. They've managed to apply their skills and craft, playing those various character roles that are essential to every good movie. And with us now is a dear friend, and I am pleased to call him a dear friend for almost 40 years now.
Yeah.
One of those actors, Dick Anthony Williams. Dick,
hey,
welcome, my man.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for coming to do the show.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. Listen, we go back, but I just wanted to begin this conversation talking about your early days in Los Angeles and what it was like out here. I know it was like in New York. I was there. You were out here. What were you guys doing as it relates to theater? Because you go back to, what, the 60s?
Yeah, I go back even farther than that. We're going to begin there. You do that to me. I know. I go back to the 60s. The 60s here in Los Angeles, and I started out, I think, in church theater. And in the church, you know, you can be what they have all these positions. You know, you don't have to show resumes and qualifications. You can be what you want to be. So I went and joined the choir because it was too boring just sitting there.
You joined the choir?
The choir, yeah.
Dang.
I hear you. I heard that. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I joined the choir, and I did for a while, and I got bored doing that, and so I decided, since all these other people had titles, that there was no drama director, and I said, well, I could be the drama director. So I decided I titled myself the drama director because they had approached me to do for Negro History Week a program, and I told them I could do that. So I wrote this program, and I titled myself the drama director, and that was kind of the beginnings of getting into theater here.
All right, Dick. You know, you mentioned that this all started in church. Now I know you weren't exactly the greatest church person in the world.
No.
But this got you into the theater as a director at first.
Well, it did. Well, previous to that, in Chicago, I was involved in poetry. I was calling myself a poet, and there was a place called the Cellar Boheme in the area on Drexel Boulevard on the south side of Chicago, and they would give you a night. And, well, they'd try you out first, so I tried out some of my poems and decided I would have Wednesday or Thursday night. And the other poets, some of the poets was like Kent Foreman and other poets who had a night. And I would do these few poems I had. And
you wrote these poems?
Yeah, I wrote them. And then after a couple of times doing them, then after they gave me the night, then a lot of the students and professors from Chicago University would come there, Wilson Junior College and all that, and they would ask for certain poems, and they would say some lines with me, and so it just sort of built up my courage. And then I had a friend, Newton Moore, who was also a dancer, and he decided he'd do some things in black in the background, and that went on for a couple of showings. And then he had a girlfriend that he connected with, and she was also a dancer, and they were about the same height, and they both got in dark clothes and did a background thing. And then I took myself out and put someone else in there.
You weren't dancing, Dick?
No. No.
I know you were singing
in
the choir.
No, I was singing in the choir.
You did your poetry, but you did not dance.
It wasn't hardly dancing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It wasn't hardly dancing. And then, so someone said, you know what you're doing, Richard? They called me Richard. And they said, you're directing. And, oh, yeah. So that was kind of the beginning, I think, of being on stage. And after that, I went into the service. I came out of the service, and I came to Los Angeles in the service, and that's how I got wound up in the church. And from the church, somehow I met my wife, Gloria.
Gloria Edwards, one of the great actresses.
Yeah. And we were in college together, and a beginning one-on-one acting class, because I would take classes that were, I would just take whatever interested me in school.
Not because of the women. Because I know I have friends that started acting because there were a lot of women, in the class.
Well, that might have been. It might have been something.
Okay.
There were a lot of women in drama.
That's how you got involved in drama.
So she, we hooked up there, and she, I didn't know that I would wind up being an actor. I thought of the things, acting was one of the least. Acting, dancing, no way.
But directing was...
Directing I thought about, but I was thinking about eventually becoming a doctor because that's what my mother wanted me to be. So anyway, she wanted to be an actress since she was 8 years old. So she was dragging me along she drugged me from that class, which I did quite well with, and it gave me a lot of courage because it made me think that I might have some talent.
Right.
And I directed some scenes in there, and they did very well. And then she drugged me to Frank Silvera's workshop. So we went. They had a workshop on Robinson Boulevard.
I remember, yes.
Yeah, and we went there, and I became a beginning student with him. And in the meantime, I started directing more scenes at Cal State LA. This was at Cal State LA that we went to college. And eventually they asked me to direct a full-length play. And I think probably it was the first time that an undergraduate had directed a full-length play. And I selected Raisin in the Sun. And they wanted me to cast from in the college, not use any of the people I knew. I said, and they said, well, maybe you can't do this because we only have 1 or 2 black people in the whole drama department. That's like 20,000 people. So, I told them that that people would come to the college with aspirations of becoming an actor or a director or connected with drama, but they would see what they've been doing, what they're doing now, and what their plans are in the future. And it didn't seem like there was an education that was available for a black person at Cal State. Because carrying a tray in the middle of a scene, and that's coming in with dusting furniture. That's,
Right.
So anyway, they said they didn't think that I could
do a Raisin.
I couldn't do Raisin because there weren't the people available in the college, and I assured them that there was, and so they did this massive advertising in the school paper and posters, and finally we got a cast together, and ultimately we wound up taking all the awards for it.
Yeah,
so it was,
I can imagine.
So, and out of that, Frank heard about it because I was connected with him then, and he started moving me up in his theater. And within a couple of years, I was like the executive producer of the American Theater of Being, and also I had the whole workshop. So
now that was that was with Bea Richards.
That was Bea Richards. Yeah, she was quite an influence. Her and Frank and
because I remember Bea and I talking about the people that were involved in the workshop, and she went on and on about you. So it was Frank Silvera's workshop that really gave you the real impetus to get to jump straight in.
Oh yeah, and he helped me quite a bit because somehow I could take my experience with poetry and use it as an actor, and actually I wound up using everything I've ever known, every experience I've ever had as an actor in acting, and in directing. So I went up from that, and I would do a lot of community work, so people would come by. They'd come by the theater because we were doing. Bea Richards was doing, had done the Amen Corner, and I executive produced that. That was after it had come from Broadway back, and then she did Medea, Henri's Medea, and Frank and I co-produced that, and Frank directed it, and then I would take my salary. It was a full equity production. I'd take my salary and throw it back into the theater, and I'd come from the office upstairs, because we had offices upstairs, and I'd come down and play one of the guards. And
where is the dedication like that today, my friend? Yeah, no, it's because I was involved in theater in the 60s as well, and that's what you did. You gave back, and there's just not enough of it. Talk about you. I mean, you talked about your experience with Frank Silvera, but when did you move into film? When did you start working in film?
We people would come to me when we were in the Coronet Theater, and they would come to me and they'd say, "Look, there's like 6 of us together, and we want to start a little acting group." And I'd say, "Well, I don't have time. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm teaching acting and I'm etc." And they said, "Well, could you give us maybe 2 hours once a month?" And I'd say, well, "Okay, I'll do that." So I'd go like to Watts or something and give them a couple hours, and then you'd wind up getting attached to the people and starting little projects with them, and then you could, and then it would grow and grow and grow. So pretty soon we were doing, the people started coming in the workshop, and it was free, absolutely free. I didn't charge anything. I didn't get anything from it. And then I think the first major film was Ruby Dee and Ozzy were doing Uptight, a Jules Dassin film. Right. And they were looking for, Jules Dassin was looking for a militant leader. And I think someone said, "There's this dude
who's a militant leader over there."
Look just Watts. So they called me in, and I sat down across from a desk from him, and he said, "We've got this leader. I'd just like you to read a little bit." And I said, "Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to do any shouting and screaming because I don't see him like that. He has power. There's no need for a powerful person to scream." I mean, And he said, okay. And then I was suspicious of him. And I said, "You mean that's cool?" He said, "Yes." So I read it, and he said, "Okay, you got the part." Right. So that was my first role in film.
In Uptight.
In Uptight,
yeah. Was it working with him?
With him, and quite an experience. Him and Frank Silvera and Raymond St. Jacques and Kelly Lester, Kirk Kirksey.
I remember. Oh, Kirk Kirksey. My. Is he still around?
No, Kirk expired. He expired, yeah.
Well, I remember seeing you in a play that really just blew me away. And I'm trying to think, I guess it was out here, but it may have been back east. And that was Big Time Buck White.
But you were there for the opening.
I was there.
You were there for the opening.
Right.
Yeah.
I couldn't see anybody for the hair. Your hair was, no. It was a great, well, that was what you were famous for, that incredible afro. But the play was really quite a fantastic play. And you were wonderful in it. That was probably your meatiest role on...
Well, no, I did like 7 other Broadway starring things after that, but that began when I was at the Coronet Theater here, and Ron Rich approached me with this script, and the writer Joe Tawati, and it was a militant leader, and it was who had a back and forth dialogue with the audience. But they had done it. Gene McDaniels, remember him? 100 pounds of clay. 100 pounds of clay. Yeah. He did it, and they did it in a small 2-light theater in Hollywood. And Ron wanted me to do it, and I said I couldn't do it as it was because I mean these are serious times, riots and all that was going on, and the propensity toward riots and the threat of it, and it was just a disruptive time, and I couldn't do the play as it existed. So they kept asking me. I told them if I directed it, if I started, I would have to direct it, but I would have to make some changes. So we began the play at the Watts Writers' Workshop in Watts, and Bud Schulberg was the head of that, and out of that came a lot of people, and we did it there. I changed the back and forth. I made it very real. I made it very real.
No, I remember being there opening night too. The riots. The riots. You were here, of course, during that period.
Yeah.
How did the riots affect the community and what you were doing in the community?
Oh, it did. It affected it quite. I mean, Watts changed. I lived in Watts for a while, after I got out of the service, and Watts was like, after the Watts riot, you'd walk up and down the street, and it seemed like everybody was on something. It's like people were scared, and it was like there were so many, the young brothers and sisters were like high, a lot of them were high. It was like their life could end any moment, that sense.
Really?
It was, we were, for the first, the Watts parade, the Watts festival that they had, I just had a senior moment.
Yeah, I have them all the time. I have them all
You
the
do.
time. Yeah, my executive producer and I, we have senior moments
We
together.
Pasla, the Performing Arts Theater, the Molly
Van
Gibbs came
Tile
out of it,
Whitfield
Van
was
Tile
the-
Whitfield.
right.
And we built this float, and we drove in the very first Watts
This is after the
festival. This is after the riots, right after the riots, yeah. So, and those were very, very volatile times, very powerful times. But back to Big Time Buck White. What happened? We did it there, and then Elgin. What happened was some reviewers came from, I think, Variety and the Reporter and the Times. I think one of them had a bodyguard with him into that area. This is right after King had gotten shot. Okay. And they saw, we got grand reviews, and so out of that, Elgin Bale and some other people invested in it, and we went to the Corner Theater, and we had a great run at the Corner Theater. It was in the papers every day, something about it, and all of the movie stars would come there for some reason or another. And out of that, it went to New York. Zev Busman heard about it, went to New York, and then, you know.
Oh, yeah, it was all over. Actually, we went to New York, and then I think it toured.
We toured, yeah.
Let me ask you about your wife, who has passed on. Gloria Edwards Williams. Gloria, I mean, you guys have two children who were at the time very, very small children.
Yeah.
And she passed on, and you became mother and father. Now, I know they have grandparents.
My mother-in-law, yeah.
How did you manage that?
That's been kind of very difficult. Because I could see the effect that it had on my son, who was like 10 when she died. My daughter was 2, and she don't remember a great deal about it. But my son was so close to her that she was in preschool. She would become the assistant teacher, and in kindergarten she would, and Gloria would start all these projects in school for the kids. And she was just she did a great deal of community work too. We both have done a great deal of community work, and it's been kind of difficult because I have to think twice before bringing a woman in my life as another wife to become all of a sudden a mother, and it's difficult to bring ladies to the house, because I didn't want my kids to say, each lady, is this going to be my mom, Dad? Is this my
You've done such a great job raising them.
I've done the best I could. I mean, I could have done better. I've devoted myself to them, but.
Right. So now, what are the ages now?
Yeah, my son Jason is 25. My daughter Micah she'll be 17 in a week or so.
Wow. So. I remember when they were both
infants. Yeah, I remember your kids, man.
I know. Well, I think I mentioned to you, and I'll have to bring this one day and share it with you. You used to have these parties at your
my wife's house.
And there's this pool in the back, and you had all my kids, your kids,
whole bunch,
and a lot of other people's kids. And I have these great pictures. I must show you.
I have pictures to show you from that too.
Yeah.
So.
But it's been such a great experience knowing you and also knowing Gloria. Although I didn't know her that well, I tell you one thing: she was one hell of an actress on stage. So were you in that play with her, the Melvin Van Peebles play?
Oh yeah, Ain't Supposed to Die a Natural Death. Yeah, I was the mean cop.
Yeah, right.
Midnight in that. Yeah, and she Smile Brown Sugar.
Right. That must have been an experience. But you did a lot of things.
Yeah, we worked with her. We worked with her on in What the Wine Cellars Buy, and that.
The Ed Bullens play.
Ron Milner.
Forgive me,
Ron Milner. Yeah, I got a Tony nomination for that, and she's with me in plays even if she's not on stage. She's quite, we had quite a connection, and so and I'm with her when she did things like The Great White Hope and other things that she did.
Your career as an actor in film, and in my opening, I touched on the fact that, just some actors can hang and some actors can't, where you have been able to survive as a performer in the industry. But what is your feeling about?
Dick, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? You know, you'll never be seen. Look, there's no place for you. They only do this and they only do that, and you know, how can you make all these people do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what happened, I think, in the '60s was that people like you and me and Doug and Woody King, we would Barbara Antier.
Yeah.
We would begin training these people so that I see so many people that I've trained that are out there now, and,
Right.
and we began to expand the base of actors and the base of directors and dancers, and there were the black choreographers out there that were, because there was a kind of movement in the '60s and early '70s that in black theater that all of a sudden we were producing these people, writers and actors and directors and producers and they're out there and they have produced, you know, others, so that there's a whole foundation of actors and actresses and writers and directors that have no place to go. So, if I love doing community work, so it gives them an outlet.
Well, no, they always call on you in the community always calls on you, and we're going to be calling on you too. To assist us in doing the things that we want to do here in Inglewood as it relates to culture and, you know, theater, dance, and art, and that kind of stuff. Will all be encapsulated in what we are planning here.
Great. This community is a wonderful community, what you guys are doing. I mean, it's right. You have a tradition of people having come here and left from the Kings and the Lakers. And I mean, but this is a area that's familiar to a whole lot of people.
Well, that's why what we're going to be responsible for is going to be in this geographical area.
Yeah.
So, you know. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming and sitting down at the Urban Roundtable with me to talk about what you're doing and to kind of go back and deal with the old times, because you and I go back, and you're one of my favorite people in all the world. So I wanted to have you as one of the first guests on our show. So thank you very much.